and Seam. I'm Pannon.
I'm V-Fire.
And I'm David.
Hello.
I feel like I should have, for this special episode, I should have said a different name. But I can't think of any other character besides the main, 3 characters in the game series we're going to be talking about for the next few episodes.
You could do the, hairspray, and I'm Link.
And I'm Tingle.
Oh, no. Nice. Well, if you have a good starter line for us to use, you can send that to us many different ways. The first is cosplaystitchandseam@gmail.com, or
you can go to the website, cosplaystitchandseam.com, and fill out our forms there. Also, make sure to check out the community project on the community page. Or
go to the Facebook page. While you're on the Facebook page, join our fantastic community. All the people who are working so hard on their Work in Progress Wednesdays, their Finished Fridays, or just whatever updates they're working on. We always have a good time there. And if you're not a big fan of Facebook, we do have a Discord. You can find the Discord link on our website. And we have a fantastic community over there that loves to share your progress. I just recently shared a Humble Bundle link for all of the cosplay books that they're doing right now. So go over there, hang out, and see some of the cool things that we're all working on. We recently were talking about sandbagging in a cosplay competition. Probably a whole episode in and of itself, but we had a really great conversation, really productive.
Nice.
So go over there, check it out. While you're on the internet checking that out, if you want to support the show, there are many different ways to do that. Leave a review wherever your podcast app lets you. We always appreciate that. That helps the algorithm. And we all know that the AI is coming. So, let's have the AI like us. That'd be helpful. And don't forget to share the podcast with a friend. And if you've got a few bucks lying around and you want to support the show, keep the lights on, pay for our services, and help us pay for our services and whatnot, we do have a Ko-fi, K-O-F-I, Cosplay Stitch, as well as a Patreon. Patreon.com/cosplaystitch. For $3 a month, you can get a shout out on the show every single episode, or you can join for $5 our Cosplay Chronicles, where we play D&D, and it's cosplay themed. It's fantastic. It's a lot of fun. I can't wait for our next session. It's always such a new and exciting experience every time that I play with these fantastic human beings.
I'm going to remember, I swear I'm going to remember the next time you're going to do that. I just had a heart attack.
I was bracing for it that time. I was like, it's coming.
I forgot, and then it started, and I was like, oh!
I tried to pause, give you guys a chance to okay, he's stopped. We're gonna move into this. All right.
And I was like, why is he paused? And I just fell right into it. So,
So Mercedes, you brought up that community project. Can you tell us a little more about it?
Yes, I also realized that by the time this episode airs, the deadline will be here. So you guys will have missed your chance to join in on it. But if there's a late entry or two, it never hurts to try.
You hear them, send it in right now.
Right now.
Yeah.
Yesterday. Do it yesterday.
Yes. But we are collecting images or 20-second videos of you in your favorite Legend of Zelda cosplays, and you can email those to us at cosplaystitchandseam@gmail.com, or you can also send in your Zelda theories, and we've got a form for that on the website. So, what are your theories for the new game? What's going to happen? Hydrated Ganon, okay? Hydrated Ganondorf. Yes, okay.
It's like
so
potato Ganondorf.
I am here for all of this. So send those in. We're going to do an episode where we're going to read all of the theories and get those up the week that the game releases, as well as attempting to get a video up on YouTube of all of you guys' awesome cosplays. So get on it.
So speaking of ways to rehydrate your look, you can always go to foxfood.store and use our promo code Stitch and Seam to get 10% off your purchase of all vegan, not tested on animal products made just for cosplayers.
Is there a podcast award for best transition? Because
Pannon.
Just right off the cuff, right there. I was like, I hope she gives me a good Zelda line I can just kind of cling to and make it about makeup.
Can't wait for how you tie the pun back into it all at the end. That'll be great.
Oh, I got a good one.
Oh, yeah.
So speaking of Livy,
Hello.
hello.
I'm Livy.
Hello.
Who's Livy? We've
who
never talked about
is
Livy
Livy?
before.
Yeah, I know. Never brought him up on the podcast ever before. Want to give a short introduction? Tell us a little about yourself.
Yeah, sure. I'm Livy Cheney. I'm Panon's beau, and
Ooh.
I'm a professional musician that really loves Zelda. And if you have any interest in cello or Zelda music, I guess you can find my links in the description, whether they be a link to the past, a Link's Awakening, any of those kind of links. I was just so impressed by your segue game. I was just like racking my brain.
That was very good.
Yeah. And actually a big part of why I went into music was because of the music of The Legend of Zelda.
Well, that's a really good place for us to like get started. Like, what got you into Zelda? What?
Yeah, so Ocarina of Time was actually my very first video game, and I find a better choice than that, right? I was so fortunate, and I was playing cello at that point and not like super excited about it, and then all of a sudden there's this incredible game that had a huge focus on music. It's like right there in the title. And I just like wanted to learn how to play all of the music from this game, as I'm sure many people did. And all of a sudden I was like, wow, like music can be fun. And so it was this like really nice thing that kind of fed on itself, where like a new Zelda would come out. I'd be so excited to play the game. And I'd also be so excited to like dive into the soundtrack and learn about it and everything. So yeah.
Nice.
Mm-hmm.
Excellent.
I've also watched the last Tears of the Kingdom trailer like 7 times and
my gosh,
cried every single time. It's like some of my favorite music I've ever heard. Incredible.
Really cool.
Yeah.
they did so good. They did so good.
I didn't know saxophone could make me cry, but here I am.
Do you have a favorite Legends of Zelda soundtrack, like a specific game that you're like, ooh, it's got to be Wind Waker or something like that?
I think like Ocarina of Time is like always going to have that special place in my heart, and I'm actually like talking with a tattoo artist right now about getting some of like the Ocarina songs tattooed on my body, because I was like, it's just too good. I love that. Having said that, I think that like pretty much every single Zelda game has like remarkable music. So I made this insane goal of trying to play through all the Zeldas before Tears of the Kingdom came out. And then this was a couple months ago, and I've made it through 6. And there's
notably Zelda 2.
Yeah, so that's where I was going, is I made it through Zelda 2 for better or worse. And the saving grace of that game was the soundtrack. It had some great music.
Nice. Nice.
I actually was recently reading the new book Psychology of Legend of Zelda, and it actually has a section on the music, and it was really, really cool. There were some things that I hadn't noticed before. One thing that I did notice and one thing that I didn't notice. What I did notice is that they'll reuse melodies in the various games, and that's because we've come to relate with those songs. And it talked about like the psychology of like how you hear that tune and you're like, I'm here for this. And then it talked about how in Breath of the Wild, this is one thing that I didn't like actively notice while playing the game, but the parts where there's music in there is when a memory is being viewed, or an intense moment is happening, or like scenes of great action, like all of Hyrule Castle, but the rest is relatively like quiet. And they were talking about how it relates to how he's lost his memory, and wherever there's music, he's creating new memories. And I was like, oh, that's so good.
Yeah, for sure. And I think like additionally in Breath of the Wild, you're exploring this like kingdom that is in like, it's just been completely shattered. And so the soundtrack really reflects that, where like sometimes there'll be like themes that are returning that you don't even recognize. Like one of my favorite instances of that is like the house theme from, you know, most Zelda games, the doot 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 doot. That actually, you know, comes back in Breath of the Wild, but is like really slowed down to the point that it's like almost unrecognizable. And then you like put it at 2 times speed, and you're just like, oh, there it is. You know, it's like really subtle. And I know that the soundtrack of Breath of the Wild was actually like kind of panned by a lot of people for that reason, because it's a lot more subtle. It's not as bombastic as nearly like all of the other Zelda games. But I still love it. It's just different. And I think that's like, you know, just what Breath of the Wild is. It's a very different game and a very different experience, which I loved in its entirety. And I'm so excited for Tears of the Kingdom and all the new music we're going to get from that.
That's going to be so good.
Yeah.
I think one of the key things that like a lot of people didn't really grab onto was that it's ambiance music. It is
For sure.
specifically like a soft piano as the wind kind of goes by you a little bit, or
Yeah.
this kind of just tonal shift as like night turns to day, and like Mercedes said, of like big bombastic moments of the blood moon rising, or when you're at Hyrule Castle, or during a cutscene specifically. But I would like knowing that you, Livy, you've written some of your own music, you've done adaptations and whatnot. What would like in your mind, would it be easier to make that big orchestral piece, or that smaller moment of just like, oh, you've moved the rock in just the right place to push this rock down the hill and kill some of the bad guys at the bottom of it? Like, from someone who creates music, what would be kind of like that mentality?
That's a really interesting question. Yeah. I think that, like, it's funny because, so, you know, this composer, Koji Kondo, if you don't know, wrote the original Mario theme that, you know, like everyone knows and loves. And then also all of these like incredibly memorable tunes from Ocarina of Time, and like, you know, a ton of Zelda games. I'm not really sure if he had a hand in like the soundtracks of the latest games as much. I know that at some point, I know that the composer that did Breath of the Wild also did Spirit tracks and some games from that era, I believe. But anyway, getting back to Koji Kondo, and especially in Ocarina of Time, like, I think that actually there's very much that same idea of like, you take this like this small bit of music, and then like you have to like pull as much meaning as you can out of that small bit of music, right? Which is kind of similar, I think, to like these little like just like fragments of music you get throughout Breath of the Wild. So like in particular, like for Ocarina of Time, what I found was like so fascinating is that, like, you know, from a game design standpoint, they want to make music a central mechanic of this game, but then they need to make it really simple so that, you know, you're not having to open your menu every few like minutes whenever you want to, you know, go somewhere or whatever. Yeah. And then, so there's like only, let's see, D, F, A, B, D, only 5 notes really on the Ocarina. And
I'm so glad you brought that up. That's something I was going to bring up. Okay, continue.
Yeah, like 5 notes on this thing. And so, you know, like all the famous jingles, I actually have my cello here if I can play a few of them.
Yeah.
So like,
by all means.
So like, you basically get this like kind of like mini scale, right? Which is these notes of D, F, A, B, and D. And from those 5 notes, you get so many like incredibly famous themes, right? Right, the little kernel for that, and right, and then so you're playing, and notably, all 3 of those themes are just 3 notes repeated twice, and that's like most of the themes that you play on the Ocarina. Extremely easy to remember, and then when you actually play them, then it becomes this full, like, beautiful melody with all these interesting harmonies and everything. But a really clever way to, you know, have a mechanic that is really accessible, that is like introducing anyone to music, without having to know anything about it.
Yeah.
So I've gone on a million tangents, but to answer your question, like it's interesting when you have more limitations. I feel like that really can force you to become more creative. So that's maybe more challenging, right?
I completely agree with you on that. I have students who are like, why can't I just do whatever I want? And then they'll sit down and I'll be like, all right, try and do whatever you want. And they sit down and they never make anything because you get stuck like looking at all the different ways that you can go and you don't know where to go. But as soon as you start placing down limitations, then you start having a direction.
For sure. Yeah. So, I think that it is a great challenge to like, think about the soundtrack of Breath of the Wild. And it's like, well, how do you use music sparsely, but then still create like these emotional connections, just like these emotional moments and everything. I think Breath of the Wild does benefit from, like 30 years of history of Zelda music, though. And like, I think that's part of why the music from the third trailer to Tears of the Kingdom hit me so hard and continues to hit me so hard, is this like culmination of all of these themes I've heard for like almost my entire life. And then just like the most sick sax solo you've ever heard in your life. And like it's certainly the game I have like been most excited for in my lifetime. I'm so excited for that game.
Isn't the sax solo the Twilight Princess theme?
So yeah, it's interesting. There's all sorts of little fragments of things, and so like immediately, let's see if I can remember it. So
break down the trailer.
In Twilight Princess, you have this little bite, this little right, which is used for the theme of Twilight Princess and also like Midna's theme and all that stuff. And so like you definitely hear that in the trailer to Tears of the Kingdom for a moment. And I think that's something that you see in a lot of Zelda games, right? Is that like you have little pieces of soundtracks from other games. And okay, I'm going to get into music theory just a little bit, just for a second. So like, if I play this, like basically whenever you play two notes, there's going to be a distance between those two notes. So if I play these two notes, that might make you think of Zelda, right? Right? Or right. So those two notes, we call that a fourth, perfect fourth, are used all over the place in Zelda. And then what happens if you, instead of going from G to D, if you go up the other way, from G up to D, you get a different interval. It's a fifth. It's a different distance. Right? That they compose a lot of other Zelda music with. So it's like the same two notes, but if you flip the direction, you get this other distance that then a ton of the Zelda games will write themes off of.
Is it true that Sidon and Mifa's songs start with C, Do, and Mi, Fa?
Mi, Fa. Yeah, it is.
Awesome. Okay, I'm glad that's true.
When I learned that was just like mind blowing. It's so cool. But yeah, as far as the latest trailer goes, something I found like super interesting is that like, I'm not sure if I can remember this theme. I'll do my best. It's like something like that. Might be a little off, but those are like the very first notes of the latest trailer, and it is the exact same melody from Spirit Tracks.
Oh my goodness!
Particularly,
cool.
This theme from when Link and Zelda have a duet. So that's really interesting to me. It's like the same composer. So, sometimes composers will write a theme and they're like, oh, I love how that sounds. I'm going to use that a lot. But in Zelda, like they'll often use those themes because like, it's like a motif. It's going to like represent something across games. And so like, my kind of like tinfoil hat theory, is that like if you start the trailer with that theme that's like a really deep cut, but then means something so specific. It's this connection between Link and Zelda. Like, tinfoil hat theory is like playable Zelda. Come on, let's go.
Let's go.
But I do like, Spirit Track's really notable for being the game where Zelda has the most active role. And then, we know that Link and Zelda are going to be separated in Tears of the Kingdom. So I'm like really hoping at the very least Zelda has like a more active role in this game. And yeah, I know just all throughout you kind of get to see what she's doing and what she's up to. So, yeah.
So I kind of wanted to go back to what you were talking about and having to work within, not necessarily like limitations, but kind of is limitations as far as like musicality for each new game. And also like shortly after we first met, for NaNoWriMo, I was doing national novel writing, and Livi decided to do different Zelda arrangements for each day.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
You want to tell us a little bit of like what inspired you to do that and like what you kind of uncovered researching so many different songs in Zelda?
Yeah, sure. So I have to like get a little bit into my background as like a musician, I think, to answer that, which is just like, a cellist that went through music school, and like kind of a bummer that like if you go to music school to study cello in particular, you're going to get a very like classical education. And so like, there was basically no interaction with like game music throughout my degree, which is a bummer for me because I'm like super passionate about that. And that would have been a really cool thing. And I was also really interested in writing music. And then same kind of deal, in the composition classes, I was like pushed to compose music in a like very specific way, in a way that I was like not really interested in. So I didn't take very many composition courses. And then so here I am after getting my degrees in cello, just really wanting to write more music and write the kind of music that I like. And of course I just immediately go to Zelda and just figured like analyzing the soundtracks of Zelda would be a great way to just figure out how they work and just like how to, reproduce it sort of, and then come up with my own original sort of ideas influenced by that. So I definitely learned a ton about writing music through looking at, lots of different Zelda soundtracks. And it's just so cool to see how many connections there are between games, like just little things. There's like, even I think like in like the Zelda community, there's something called the Zelda chord. And if you know anything about like chords, that chord is just a flat 6 major 7. And it appears in like almost every Zelda game. And it is a really cool harmony. Yeah. Anyway, so like stuff like that, right? Where it's just like you see these connections, and then when you hear it, you get really like excited and kind of pulls it all together. Yeah. Nice. So, yeah.
What were some of like your favorite connections or things you discovered?
Oh gosh. I haven't worked on that project in about a year. I think, oh man, gosh. I think that what I was bringing about with, or what I was talking about with the intervals earlier, and just seeing how like, this like that interval of the fourth that I played is just like this little bite that you see developed in so many different ways. But then also like in Twilight Princess, Twilight Princess is a much like kind of darker game. So it's like, rather than use that interval that's like a really triumphant sound, they flip it on its head, and then it starts to sound like more somber, right? That was a really cool kind of moment for me, just seeing that, where it's like they're still connected, but then you get this very different color by just like, using that same distance but flipped. Yeah.
Nice.
Do you got anything else? I could probably like drive a bunch of like music connections, but I don't want to get like too in the weeds with like music composition and theory.
Yeah, it's tough. I feel like talking about music is always tough because like it's like such an abstract thing, right? And then like there's a very there's a learning curve to like terminology. It like it seems really complex when you're first learning about it, and it is fairly complex. But honestly, there's a lot of information out there on learning basic music theory, just like on YouTube.
Mhm.
So for all the people out there that have any interest in music and learning about like writing music, all the tools are out there just on YouTube. It's kind of amazing. You can really learn a lot. I think like, just looking up the basics to music theory or maybe the basics to reading music is a really good place to start and kind of get into it. But anyway, it is tough to talk about music without it getting kind of, I don't know, esoteric, I suppose. But
Yeah.
We can
Like-
jump back to, I know you had some like Zelda theories you wanted to like talk about with the new game, or like things you think might come up.
Oh, yeah. I mean, there's just like, I think something that I really love about Zelda, that I, like, and I have kind of like mixed feelings about the timeline thing. And like, so for those that don't know, like, there's been, I think Tears of the Kingdom is going to be the 20th like main series game over, when did the first one come out? Like 86 or something, I think. So, almost over, wait, is that right? Oh my gosh.
Hang on. Let me double check.
Are we coming up on 40 years of Zelda? Can that possibly be right? That terrifies me. Anyway,
86. Yep.
oh my
Oh, no, you're
God.
right, yeah.
So is that 37 years ago?
Uh-huh.
Oh my God, I don't like that. Anyway, yeah. Sorry, I'm kind of shell shocked by that. I can feel my bones drying up a little.
Here's another
yeah.
fun one while you kind of wrap your mind around that. Somebody wrote in our Discord, there's actually another big reason to celebrate Zelda this year because the release of the new Tears of the Kingdom, Ocarina of Time, turns 25 this year as well.
Oh my God, yeah.
I'm just withering into dust here.
Yeah, gonna play my Song of Time real fast. Go back to the first day, please. But yeah, so theories. Yeah, I think that something I love about Zelda is like, so the complex timeline thing, right? That's what we're talking about. Like, I guess like 10 years ago or something, they're like, we're going to try to make all of these games have some sort of connection, even though Link has like killed Ganon 10 times. And it's like, well, how does that work? And it's like, well, multiverse, obviously, right? Like, parallel timelines. And it's interesting. So they have a kind of loose way of like, making sense of like the events of each game unfolding and leading into each other. And it's like very much like this kind of like reincarnation thing of like the same characters. And I think it's very interesting how they've like made sense of it, but also like, the legend of Zelda is like, it's right there in the title. And there's so many themes that are like similar, but just a little different, And so like, in what we've seen of Tears of the Kingdom so far, there are little like things that are reminiscent of Twilight Princess and the Twily, who we saw like in one game, but was just this super rich vein of lore. And so I personally am not really expecting like the Twily to come back, but I am kind of expecting there to be like a lot of similar themes to what we saw in Twilight Princess, or like a lot of similarities to the Twily and the Zonai, this, new people that were responsible for a lot of the technology we see in the trailers and whatnot.
Did they ever confirm that the new like race that you see in the trailer is the Zonai? Or is that just popular fan theory?
It's all but confirmed because like in the trailer you see Link pick up an item and it says like Zonai something or other, Zonai battery.
Right.
And then like the design that you see on the Zonai matches up very closely with the designs you see on this character. And like there's like a Zonai like like almost like hieroglyph, I guess, that you see in the trailers where that character is depicted. So I think it's, all but confirmed. Seems pretty certain, but
Nintendo is very good about like, we're gonna keep this under wraps, but everyone's going to piece it together. Like the reveal that Matt Mercer is playing Ganon. Everyone's like, day one, yeah, that's Mercer. That's 100% Mercer.
Yeah.
And it wasn't until like 24 hours after the last trailer drop. It's like, yeah, I got the okay. It's me. And I'm like, well, yeah, that's old news, dude. We knew that before you could say anything.
Yeah. Yeah, that's really cool. And I saw like on Twitter, Matt Mercer like shared pictures of him like cosplaying I think it was Link when he was a child, and then Ganon recently, and it was so sweet. So happy for him. Yeah,
adorable.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
Oh.
What gameplay aspect? This is kind of a like for y'all question, but like, what has the trailer made you most excited for in the new Tears of the Kingdom?
Making dumb crap.
Yeah, for sure.
I'm gonna stick so many things together, it's not gonna make any sense, and it's gonna be like the dumbest machines you've ever seen. I'm here for it.
What about you, David?
Honestly, and I'm not trying to be antagonistic in the slightest, but that's my least favorite component of gaming is like, yeah, you gotta build up your house in such a fashion or build a transportation device. I saw that, I was like, that looks cool, but that's just not my thing. Like, my brain isn't wired that way.
Mine is very much wired that way.
You are very like hands-on crafty kind of way, so I could appreciate why it's so cool. It's just for me, like Fallout 4's weakest point was build your house. It's like I don't want to do that. I want to go out and save the wasteland. But I think I mentioned it last time, but I really like, and I hope this stays. But there was like coordinates on your little mini map, and if they keep that in there, that's a game changer to me. The number of times where I'll get lost and I could just make a quick note of like, okay, here's my longitude, here's my latitude. I'm gonna come back here, but I need to do a little bit more exploring. Because that for me, beautiful. That's gonna be such a game changer.
Oh man,
that's really cool. I know that in a like TV spot that just came out recently, like on screen for like a second or two, you can see the coordinates, and it shows like the Z coordinate is having like minus like 500 or something.
What?
So what? that is probably what I am like most excited about is
cave systems.
Yeah, exactly. I think it's not just going to be exploring the sky. I think it's also going to be exploring underground. Yeah, which just sounds so cool to me.
Nice.
Yeah. But also like it's funny actually. I'm kind of in the same boat as you, David, where like in Breath of the Wild, like, you know, there are all of these systems that like you can do all this like wildly creative stuff with. And like just recently I was making one of my friends try out Breath of the Wild for the first time, and he spent like the first 3 hours of the game like just in a small area, just trying out all of these different systems, being like, well, can I catch the forest on fire? Will it kill the boar if I catch the forest on fire? You know, all this stuff. I was like, I'm having so much fun watching you play this game, and it is so different than how I played. And like I do enjoy being creative with my games, and I do enjoy a crafting game every once in a while. But I was the person that was like getting out my binoculars and like looking at the low textured designs on like a brick, just like, you know, like see like all of the like lore connections I could find, that kind of thing. Nice. And I had the time of my life. Breath of the Wild's probably my like favorite game of all time. And I enjoyed it in a very different way than a lot of people. Yeah, I'm honestly also really excited that like, you know, still on TikTok, I'll see people doing ridiculous things in Breath of the Wild that are delightful. Like, we're going to see people doing ridiculous things in Tears of the Kingdom for like decades, I'm sure. It's just like, you know, like all the combinations of items and then like sticking all of the objects together. I'm sure we're going to see ridiculous things, even if I don't do it myself.
Yeah. Even with Breath of the Wild, like today, like you're still getting videos of someone's like, here, I figured out another way to solve this puzzle that's like not the intended way, and it's
beautiful. That's super cool. Yeah. That's super cool.
Nice. I think for me, like I really liked Skyward Sword, where I think a lot of people didn't, but because of like gameplay.
I like Skyward Sword.
But like I love Skyward because I think it establishes a lot of lore and like backstories, especially since it's like the first Link after everything went down. If you read the like manga and stuff and saw like the very first hero, and then he's like the first iteration of Link, right? Because it like has so many different like parts of Hylia you can explore. It has like I'm really curious if the like new Sky Islands are going to tie into Skyloft. If like I don't know, I'm just like super excited for like all the new lore that we're gonna get, for all the like, just with all the trailers that have come out and having people have so many fan theories. I'm like really curious to see like if this is kind of like the like end of the cycle, if it's going to like restart back at the beginning again. Like how everything's going to relate to everything else. So I'm just super excited for that.
That's one of my favorite theories, because the like logo of Tears of the Kingdom is like an Ouroboros, you know, this like for Tears of the Kingdom, it's like a dragon eating itself, which is this like, you know, symbol of like without ending, right? Just like renewing and re-beginning, I guess. And like there is that really clear connection to Skyward Sword and like Skyloft. So I know I see a lot of people being like, "Oh, it couldn't work. It doesn't make any sense." And I'm just like, when has Zelda ever made sense when you're trying to connect the games together? You know, and like I could absolutely see them like it being like a cyclical thing, especially because Breath of the Wild doesn't fit neatly into any of the timelines. So I'm very curious about that and excited.
Well, Breath of the Wild is supposed to be like the joining point of the three major timelines of if the hero fails, the hero succeeds as a child, or succeeds as an adult. And like Breath of the Wild is supposed to put all of them together, and no one's like, how do you converge three different timelines into one?
Right.
And my working theory is right now is that with the help of the Zonai, that there's going to be some sort of alternate reality manipulation thing that the link that we are experiencing with the trauma on his arm, he's going to have some sort of connection to, like in Twilight Princess, where he was interacting with the hero of the past who died, training him how to be a swordsman. So I think that there's some connection to all of the links in our timelines that we've seen to make this like proto link to end the timeline or to free the cycle or something along those lines. It's my little game theory right there.
That's a really cool thought. I like that.
Yeah.
Oh, my brain's like, I love that so much.
Yeah.
Because I always looked at it as like Breath of the Wild was just so far in the future that it didn't matter which timeline, and because it's Legend of Zelda, that the legends from all the timelines are known in whichever one this one is. But I don't know, I gotta think about it more.
Yeah, well, I think it's interesting too, because like even on the map for Breath of the Wild, they have like monuments and characters and things that are like named after people that are in like all three timelines. So like and never appearing in other timelines, right?
Right.
So it makes sense to me that there would be something, you know, that would draw them all back together.
Yeah, I think in like most Zelda games, even there's like some sort of like kind of dubstep drop mechanic where like, you know, Ocarina of Time, you take the Master Sword and it's like, oh my god, I'm an adult. Yeah. And I don't know, like Twilight Princess, you turn into a wolf. That's really cool. And then like Link Between Worlds, you're going through the walls and, you know, all this stuff. So I am kind of curious if there's like some big thing that we haven't seen yet that deals with like time travel or like you were saying, David, like just like dimension jumping almost, you know, where you're going through different like realities almost.
That'd be fascinating. I
saw one theory that was like with the slightly different looking Hylian girl with like the darker skin, that she might be Hilda from like Lorule, like having that be like a cross dimensions thing.
That'd be really cool.
That would be awesome. I forgot love Link Between Worlds.
Yeah.
I want Midna back. I cried at the end of Twilight Princess. If you don't bring me Midna back, and you say like, "Oh yeah, we've got the Twilight here. Everything's good." If you don't bring me Midna, I am falling again. It's just an old wound you're opening up.
I'm like, I need some Twilight. Like, just all the lore behind them is so I need more of it. And so I'm hoping that there's at least, I don't know. I have a feeling that like we're going to be spending plenty of time taking this game apart and just exploring every inch of this
For
newer
sure.
looking Hyrule.
Yeah. I know that was a big concern with like Breath of the Wild announcing, or rather them announcing so soon after Breath of the Wild that Tears of the Kingdom was coming out. People were like, well, is this going to be like a reskin like with Majora's Mask, even though they're like vastly different stories?
It's like Majora's Mask was still good despite that.
Yeah. And Majora's Mask had like 1 year of development, I think. It's ridiculous. And it's like lauded as one of the greatest games of all time. Like,
so good.
Like I know people were worried about having like the same map, or like having like, you know, you got Breath of the Wild, you spent like probably 3 weeks just exploring the whole map once you got it, right? But you explored it thoroughly, and so you're like, is this like gonna be the exact same map? Am I gonna have stuff to do? And I feel like they've just expanded and given us so much to play with.
Oh, definitely. I think that like, I've seen so many people kind of, I guess, doomsaying that this game is like going to be a failure for whatever reasons, and primarily that like, you know, it's going to be like DLC, whatnot. But this Zelda game has had more development time than any other Zelda game. And I just have to throw it out there that one of the times they announced the game was going to be delayed was shortly after the release of Elden Ring. which to me inspires great confidence that they're like, oh, okay, well,
my bear.
Yeah, exactly. That's got to be the moment where they're like, all right, we have to add an underground.
I think it was Miyamoto who said, though, of like, a rushed game will forever be bad, but a game that takes time means it will be perfect forever. So I'm always like, I mean, I'm a huge Hollow Knight fan, so I have to be patient now. Because I bet you anything they're just gonna like shadow drop the day after Tears of the Kingdom. They're just gonna be like, hey, you guys, you want to know what's really gonna screw with your system? Here you go. Here's Silksong.
Dig it. Oh, well, I would love to talk about this for like 3 more hours, but we're getting toward the end of our episode. You brought your cello and everything. Did you want to like play a little riff for us or anything?
Oh, I mean, I kind of already played little riffs.
No, I just
more.
Yeah. Maybe I can. You have to come to conventions to hear me play Zelda music.
There
you go. Yeah, that is incidentally something I would love to do. Just, I don't know, put together a whole talk on Zelda music, because there's so much there. But I also do care really a lot about making music more accessible, just in terms of like, you know, understanding it and everything. So
nice.
Yeah.
Well.
Oh, I will say 2 great places to check out like Zelda music. One, 8-Bit Music Theory. Great channel for just fantastic. And then there's another one that's just called Zelda Music Theory. Also great. Yeah. Just really I don't know, accessible ways to get into, you know, learning more about music. Yeah.
Nice. Well, we like to end our episodes with like a cosplay horror story.
Horror stories. Spooky, spooky, spooky.
Oh no. Because you know.
I know.
So because
you have to share that one.
No, I will.
Okay.
I'm intrigued.
It was so bad. So we were at SoccerCon, and this is my second cosplay I've ever worn. It was Noctis from Final Fantasy 15. And like, you know, Pan was really busy judging and everything, and so I was going to see some panels, and I'm like in this D&D panel just chilling, and then I looked down and saw that my shorts were practically in 2 pieces. Like the rip like was all along the crotch seam, and it was like,
oh no,
it was far closer to being in 2 pieces than 1.
Yeah.
And I just looked down, it was just like all gone. And I was horrified.
When did that happen?
Yeah. And
It was like
I'm just
from the bottom of the zipper, like all the way down, like probably 13, 14 inches.
Yeah.
All the way up the booty.
Yeah. So I just like sent an SOS message. I was like, please help. And then just like crab walk, like the most awkward shuffle. Incidentally, SakuraCon had the 2 buildings, right? That it was happening at. And I was in the other building from Panon. So yeah, I made my very awkward shuffle to the cosplay repair station. And
I'm glad that you had like a long jacket though. So
yeah,
you kinda, like,
I mean,
cover it a little.
Yeah. It was tough. Yeah.
That was a fun one. But luckily they had a really good repair room.
They did. Yeah.
And like they had a like full machine I could use, and we just had you like put on a towel and sit for a minute while I sewed it back on.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, like even a Kiraga wouldn't have helped that one. So I'm glad you were there. Yeah.
Nice.
That was also when we saw one of the voice actors from 15, and you
Yeah.
and I were there. And you look like a great Noctis. Looks at me and Harley Quinn. You're naked.
Yeah, that was the voice actor of Noctis. It was very cool.
Yeah, Ray Chase.
Ray Chase.
Mhm.
Yeah, very fun.
Yeah, he's a really nice guy. Nice. Well, I think that's... Oh, we got to do our like outro stuff, right?
Yeah.
Outro
So,
stuff.
If you enjoyed today's episode and you want more, tell us what you want more of. You can do that a number of different ways. First is our email, which is cosplaystitchandseam@gmail.com, or
you can go to the website at cosplaystitchandseam.com, or
go to the Facebook page. Tell us what you want us to see. Oh, dear Lord. Tell us what you are working on. We would love to see it, and we would love to share with the rest of the community all of your work in progress. It doesn't even have to be just on Wednesdays. We always love seeing what you're working on. Again, we've got our Discord. If you're not a big fan of Facebook, we totally get it. We've got a fantastic community where we talk about all of these great things. We have a great collection of horror stories that you can commiserate with other people and give them support and let them know, like, oh yeah, you think that's bad? My whole top fell off and it was really embarrassing. These things happen to all of us all the time. So come over, have fun with us, and share in the laughs. And while you're on the internet, if you want to support the show, share the podcast with a friend, leave us a review, or be like these amazing patrons who support us each and every single month. We have Cynthia Eve Cosplay, Star Fetcher, Mace, Tim Yoke, Wanderboy Cosplay, Troffcos, Lydia, Rose Does, Yggdrasil, Dr. Steggy, James Donaldson, Cynics, Hot Riku, Renamira, Jazzy Kofed, Gloria Shu, Sudi, and Silver Deeds.
Nice. Thank you guys so much. Once again, for getting your cosplay makeup needs met, you can always check out foxbeauty.store. Use that promo code STITCHANDSEAM, all one word, to get 10% off your purchase. Thanks, as always, to Macy Roberts for the use of her music as our theme song, and to David Jeffers for his amazing editing. How are your podcasts going, David?
They are going so great. For Comic Trades Monthly, where we talk about your favorite comic book collection in a book club format, we talked about Deadly Class by Rick Remender, and oh my gosh, it's probably my favorite comic of the year. You guys, it is a visual masterpiece to look at, and I cannot stop talking about it. So go check out that. And also, go check out The Last Voice. Get caught up. Season 3's just around the corner. Get ready. It's a big one. I hope you guys like it. I love it. So if you don't, you.
Yeah. Nice. I found that I got like way too many Zelda jokes for this one because I was so excited. But
can we get multiple timelines where one you tell us one joke, the other you don't tell us?
Yes. I mean, what are the chances people stop mistaking Link for Zelda? Highly unlikely.
Oh!
Did you hear about the new Legend of Zelda racing game?
No.
No? It's going to be Link in Park. And I mean, when Tears of the Kingdom comes out, I'm going to be doing nothing but playing that, right? Because it's highly addictive. Thanks for listening, guys. We'll see you next time.
Bye.
See ya.
Bye.